Welcome to another edition of On Scene with TFD. I'm Mike Bellamy, your host for today's show. Have you ever wondered how firefighters in our community receive the specialized training required to save lives and property? Well, today's show is all about the Tallahassee Fire Department's training facility, and we'll spotlight how firefighters receive real-life, state-of-the-art training. Let's meet our guests. Lieutenant Jason Pittenger and Chief Mike Haddon, thank you both for taking time out of your busy day to join us.
Thank you for having us.
Today's show is kind of a behind-the-scenes look at the fire department. I think that the training functions are something that something that the public doesn't see every day. Sure. And I know both of you are escaping some training activities at the moment to be here today on the show. So, Chief, tell me about the training facility. Introduce us to that.
Oh, sure. Our training facility was established in 1964. It's a 5-acre piece of land on the corner of Alpha Yard and Pensacola Street, and it's bordered by the south by Municipal Way. The facility was redesigned back in early 2000s to include a burn building, a training tower, and we have several other props that we put in over the years to accompany all the specialized training that we do. And
Jason, is there anything else you want to add to that?
We train out there every day. We train Monday through Friday, and we're there basically from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. At night. Something always is going on. We train a lot of firefighters.
And is that common for a fire department to identify an area and kind of set all those things in one place?
Yes, absolutely. You tend to have a central training station or an area where everybody can go. It's a common, there's common props and there's common facility, so everybody knows where to go for the training, and it also just helps keep a staff on site. So thus, if they're instructing or if they have to facilitate any type of teaching, they're there for them.
And so how you mentioned the staff, who works out there?
There's myself, and I have, of course, Lieutenant Pittenger, and we have another lieutenant out there. We also have an air resource officer that also helps teach and instruct. Our division is overseen by a division chief, but he is or she is stationed at the PSC.
And what's a typical day out there, a week, like for the training division?
It's dynamic. It depends what day of the week it is. We have scheduled training different days of the week. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays are more refresher training or live fire training. Some days are different classes that we may be putting on for maybe an EMS refresher, for a hazmat refresher, USAR classes. It also depends. We sometimes have outside vendors that come in and put on classes for us. We typically all get there super early in the morning, and like Lieutenant said, we sometimes leave not till late at night.
Jason, what are some of those refresher classes like?
We do continuing education, whether it be for EMS or for fire. Being a firefighter, you have.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. You said EMS. I think that's most of our viewers probably wonder, what are you doing with EMS? So tell us about why that's important.
Sure. Our community, we have in the Tallahassee Fire Department, we also provide, in addition to fire service, we provide emergency medical services.
Okay.
So it's very important to have continuing education. It's required by the state, but we also want to be proficient at our jobs.
Okay.
We do the same thing with fire service too. The fire service is such a broad spectrum of skills that you need to have, to acquire and to keep, that we need to brush up on things from time to time. So we have a rotation of different skills that we do.
Okay, all right. And that facility has classrooms, some inside functions. It has some outside functions.
Absolutely. We have 3 classrooms. We expanded our facility back in 2009 to include 2 new larger classrooms. So at any given time during the course of the week, some days all 3 classrooms are filled up. We also have inter departments from the city, TPD and maybe other organizations within the city will use a classroom to teach classes and continue education for them.
And so I guess, what are the challenges? I mean, obviously in our service, it's about being ready, being in place. We have about to have 16 stations. We need those firefighters in those stations. So how do you accomplish getting the folks out there doing the training, the in-service?
Well, like Jason said, it's very dynamic, the fire service. It's more than just putting out fires. So we have certain mandates that we have to accompany as far as achieve each year for annual training. In addition to that, we have specialized teams, we have specialized training that we have to accommodate also. A lot of it is down to scheduling. Sometimes you're going from one, you have to change hats real quick out there. And we also bring in new hires. We have been continuing basis the last several years. We've had several classes of new hires. So we have to accommodate them with the type of training that we want them to learn about the Tallahassee Fire Department. In addition to our outside partners that from TPD and organizations like that we help accompany the classrooms for their training. And then we also have community outreach. We do a lot of things for the Community Leadership Tallahassee, Citizens Fire Academy. So we have to schedule all those things and be pretty dynamic. Those are some of the big challenges.
Jason, what do you think? What kind of challenges do you see out there?
Like you said, one of the biggest challenges is getting the actual crews out there to train. You can't just shut down a fire station. We want fire service for that area. So we do a lot of coverage. Our battalion chiefs are very good at scheduling and covering, having other engines cover those particular territories.
We'll sort of change the way we look for a moment, kind of move things around?
Yes, we'll have engines cover different calls and until they can get back in their territory.
So, and that's important because that's a cost savings to the citizens, right? If we can try to do the in-service and use a lot of these things while we're on duty, I'm sure that's helping out.
Absolutely. We do a lot of online courses too. You know, each station has internet access, so a lot of what we'll do online classes that don't necessarily have to be at the training facility. We facilitate it, create the programs, and then we can deliver it to the 270 sworn personnel that we have. Then they can get that training done on their own at the station.
And then another important component that firefighters come to us when we hire them. They come to us with what we call the minimum standard. Mm-hmm. They've been through the fire academy and they understand the difference between a ladder and a fire hose and how to tie a knot. But what they need to do is they need to learn about the Tallahassee Fire Department. They need to learn about our equipment, our command structure, our tactics. Is that something that you're providing for them out there as well?
Absolutely. Typically, we get a group of new hires. We put them through a 5-week training program. As we tell them, forget everything you learned, you can now learn it our way. And we go through, we work with pieces of our equipment. We familiarize them with our tactics, our training, what to expect, everything from your first day on the job, how you're going to answer the phone, to how you're going to fight that first fire when you show up on scene.
And that's something that, Jason, you would be in charge of? I mean, some of the lieutenants out there would take that task on?
Correct. We have one of our other lieutenants, Lieutenant Willis. He's currently in charge of new hire orientation, but we all jump in and help out.
And then the other piece of that is, again, bringing the new firefighters, the ones that are wanting to become a firefighter, become certified. That is something that we're doing out there as well, right? We're training firefighters? Absolutely.
The Tallahassee Fire Department has a partnership with the Tallahassee Community College. People enter and apply through TCC, and they get their minimum standards, and we facilitate that training out there.
Okay. A lot going on.
Absolutely.
A lot to manage.
Every day.
Okay. Well, will you stick around for another segment?
Sounds good.
For you, yes.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, we're going to talk more about the props and some of the specific stuff out there. So, okay. All right, don't change that channel. When we return, more about the Tallahassee Fire Department.
I am here to save lives.
What happened?
He came from out of nowhere.
When people need help, I respond.
During a crisis, I remain calm.
She's got a head injury.
I am a 911 dispatcher, and you can be one too.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
The Consolidated Dispatch Agency has openings for public safety communications operators. Dispatchers earn nearly $30,000 a year with benefits, receive on-the-job training, and have a flexible schedule. If you want to save lives, visit talgov.com and apply today.
Hey, let me help you with that there, Sparky. Sparky the dog wants to remind you that when you change your clocks, change the battery in your smoke alarms. Speaking of which, when was the last time you tested the battery in your smoke alarm? At least once a month, push the button on your smoke alarm to make sure it's working properly. Remember, test alarms for life.
Hello, I'm Mike Terhune with the Tallahassee Fire Department. Did you know the chance of fires caused by candles greatly increase during the winter months? Please take care when using candles in the home. Keep lit candles out of reach of children and pets. And remember, never leave lit candles unattended in the home. When you go out,
For more life-saving tips, visit the Fire Department's website at talgov.com.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Let's get right back into our discussion today about our training facility and training our firefighters. So thanks for sticking around, Lieutenant Pittenger and Chief Haddon.
No problem.
We covered some of the basics about the who and the what and why on the training and keeping the firefighters sort of on the ready all the time. Let's take a look at some photographs right now that we have from our training division. Okay. So some of the props that we've talked about, some of the things you use. So let's get right out here and Jason, tell me what we're looking at.
All right, that's our burn building. As you can see, it's 3 stories. We can burn in the first story and the second story. It's made up of individual rooms. It has like a mocked up garage. It's used to simulate a house fire. As you can see, it's got multiple exits. It's got windows that we could do specialized entering and exiting from.
Chief, what do we do on the, how do we monitor the temperatures and know what's happening, keep that safe?
Each room is individually monitored. We have a temperature monitoring time we do a live fire evolution. We have a temperature threshold, and our temperature monitor lets us know as instructors if we're getting close to that threshold and we have to change the scenario around.
These are pretty rare. I wouldn't imagine there's many of these in our area.
No, this is the only one in our area between Jacksonville and Pensacola, I believe, and it's probably one of the better ones in the state.
Okay, great. Let's check out the next shot here. What do we got?
We have a 6-story training tower. That tower, it was built around the same time as the burn building, and it's used from everything from rappelling ropes to hose tower evolutions.
This is another cool shot right here of the tower in use, different things. What are we looking at? What's down there on the bottom right? That looks kind of interesting, Jason.
On the bottom right, that's some of our bailout training. We want to train all our firefighters in case they do get in a situation where they cannot use a standard exit, that they are able to bail out quick and safely.
Anything else to add to that, Chief?
That high line you see on the left-hand side, you can see they run a line from the top of the tower to the ground. That's a lot of fun to ride down that one right there.
So yeah, so this is, we can rappel, we can set these high lines.
Absolutely. It's a multi-use tower. We have a lot of great uses we can use that thing for.
Okay, let's check our next picture here. Now, I think it's important to create life scenarios, real life examples. We can't just keep these firefighters in the classroom. So tell us what they're going to do here in terms of what
Absolutely. In 2009, we took some funds and we were able to build what we call a ventilation prop. What it does is it simulates 2 different pitches of roofs, and what we do is we train our firefighters. As you can see right there, they get on top of the roof with saws and they cut holes in the roof to simulate actual ventilation training that they would work on an actual fire ground.
And that's a common place we end up, on the roof of your house. I mean, if we're responding to a fire, we've got to sometimes get up and look for those hidden fires. And,
absolutely.
You know, some of those areas up there, it might be their first time some of these firefighters are getting on a roof if they're going through that first stage of training.
Correct.
All right, let's check out our next shot. Fire. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at what they call a burn pit. We utilize this for our natural gas or liquid or LP gas, one of our burn props. It's basically a pool of water that is injected with gas and lit on top. We use this to simulate some training if you had a liquid fuel fire.
Okay, so that we have to extinguish that fire differently than we would?
Absolutely. These are fires that typically you'd see that looks like that snowy stuff, the foam that we'd have to use. You can see this is the group working together to put out that fire.
What are they doing here?
Okay, here they're using 2 hose lines in a technique where if you had a gas meter that was on fire, and it's a technique that we use 2 hose lines with wide fog patterns, and what they're able to do is as they go closer with that fog pattern, they're pushing the heat away from them. They're able to get in there and use a wrench to turn off that gas meter, actually.
Now you're saying fog. That's not fog, that's water, right?
That is water coming out of there, but it is called a fog pattern as opposed to a straight stream pattern.
Okay.
And it pushes, it's really good at shielding heat away.
Okay, so those nozzles have the ability of being straight or a variance all the way out to a fog.
You could have a pretty good straight stream or a fog.
Okay, and we use that tactically in different types of scenarios.
That's correct.
Very cool. Okay, let's check out the next one. This is in the same spot in the training division over where we have some of that LP that we use to pipe. So what is this doing?
Correct. This is also part of our LP gas, our natural gas training. We have piped in. We take an old car and we pipe underneath there and we ignite it. Typically, we'll put pallets of wood and hay in there, and this is to train our firefighters, new firefighters, on the techniques and tactics of fighting a car fire.
Okay. Got a couple more left here. Then we're doing some vehicle extrication training here. This looks like an unusual vehicle accident.
Most unusual. It looks like a culvert and a large tree met a car. What we'll do with these props, again, we have a big grass field there on the acreage of the training grounds, and what we'll do sometimes is we'll set up scenarios and challenge our specialty teams to different rescue techniques. This is one that they're using a stabilization technique to marry the car to the objects that they're resting upon, and then they go through the process of removing a patient in a rescue.
No two of these are alike, and so we have to always mix it up for our folks
Absolutely,
out
got
there.
to keep them sharp.
Keep them sharp, that's right. Let's check out our last picture. Jason, what is this?
That's a mocked up tanker that we have, and we can simulate a gas spill in there, different techniques for approach on how you would approach it. We have also used it for advanced extrication techniques with a car underneath or flipped upside down. Just different ways we can use props out there.
I know that some of our training involves identifying what type of cars and looking at what type of materials and substances that they have in them. So it's neat to have an actual car out there that we can train on and train with. So, all right, well, so we're looking at those props. We didn't really get a chance to see inside of everything. And on the training tower, you have taken several floors of that training tower and you've created mock living spaces. Tell me about that.
Correct. On one floor we mocked up as an apartment. We just took different partitions, furniture, and what we do is we train our firefighters in search and rescue techniques and actually getting around objects. Another floor we set it up as an office. And then additionally, I believe, Jason, we have it on one of the floors, we have a maze, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's a two-tiered maze, and we'll fill it with smoke and a lot of noise. And what it simulates is more of a confined space that the firefighters may have to go through. We have objects that they'll have to either go over or under, and they have to find their way out, and we black out their mask, and it just helps train them in the most adverse situations.
What's the purpose of the noise?
Firefighter survival. Fire grounds can be very noisy. There's machinery operating, there's ventilation fans, and it can be really hard to communicate and talk. So what we try to do is train our folks to relax, to calm down, and find their way out through tactical feeling.
Okay. You know, I always try to make the point that fire is nothing like it is in the movies.
No.
It's in the movies it's light and it's quiet and you can see. And that's not the case. You cannot see, and it's very loud, and that maze helps us kind of recreate that for them. So it's an eye-opener, I think, for these firefighters when they first get in the business.
Absolutely.
So, all right, will you stick around for the last segment?
You got it.
All right. Don't change that channel. Let's talk more training when we return.
Hello, I'm firefighter Kathy Golke. Having smoke alarms in your home reduces the chances of you dying in a fire nearly in half. Install smoke alarms in your home and test the batteries each spring and fall. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
Hello, I'm Captain Leroy James. More fires start in the kitchen than any other place in the home, and cooking fires are our #1 cause of home fire and home fire injuries. Keep a fire extinguisher handy. Don't be afraid to use it. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
The Tally Parks app, a free app from the city of Tallahassee, is available for download. With the app, you can search by trail marker, scan QR codes on trails to find locations, and find features like basketball courts or playgrounds. The Tally Parks app is free in the Google Play Store and in the Apple App Store. The Tally Parks app is a great app for discovering the best parks in America. Unlike other map services, it helps you find all the parks and trails, plus the hidden gems that make Tallahassee unique.
Bunny, Puppy, Gerbil, and Kitty. They come in from throughout the city. Is your tomcat up to his old tricks? Are you sure Mama Dog is actually fixed? Help us, help us, help us get control. We've got more animals than Fort Knox has gold. You hold the key to getting pets a home. Spay neuter your pets so they don't roam. Fewer kittens and puppies in production benefit existing animals from this reduction.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Today's show is all about training our firefighters in our training division. So let's get back to our two guests now who are in charge of making all that happen. So Jason and Chief Haddon, thanks for sticking around for the last segment.
Sure.
So before the break, we got into the detail of all those props out there, and you know, it gives you the ability to really create a real-life scenario.
Correct.
And give me some examples of what you're doing on some scenarios that you're putting us in.
Live fire, our burn building that Jason talked about on the last segment, it is a big part of what we do. And what we do is there is an actual fire in there. And what we use is an opportunity for our everyone from our battalion chiefs to our engine company officers to our firefighters to train on a fire scenario. What we'll give them is we'll give them a hypothetical situation. This is what you have, this is what you're called to, and they have to operate within our SOPs and our established tactics to extinguish the fire, perform rescue if there's rescue needs to be performed, ventilation, and all the chaotic things that go on a fire ground. We overall supervise as the training division to supervise what they're doing to make sure that everybody's safe. But ultimately, there's a burning fire inside a building they need to go in and put out.
And you said SOPs. That's our standard operating procedures.
Exactly.
So we have a game plan, in other words, or we have a series of guidelines we try to follow?
Sure, we have a series of established guidelines for a single-story residence or multi-story residence, or it could be a large commercial structure. Different fires, different buildings require different tactics, require different numbers of personnel, and those are the type of things that we can train on out there.
Jason, why don't you just use an abandoned building? What's the benefit?
You could use an abandoned building, but you just never know what's going to happen with that building. We don't know structural wise. We'd have to check it out. We would have to completely gut the place. What we don't want is, we take risk in firefighting, but what we don't want is somebody getting hurt during training. So we try to make it as real as possible, but you also have to balance that with being safe.
What kind of guidelines do we have to adhere to from a statutory approach?
For live fire training?
That's right.
Okay, there's a National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, established guidelines in the early 2000s. The state adopted those guidelines, and every training facility in the state has to adhere to those. So we have to have a certain number of certified instructors, what they call live fire instructors, that are on scene. We, as the Tallahassee Fire Department, go above beyond. We temperature monitor our building to keep those flame and heat thresholds at a safe operating level. Like Lieutenant Pittenger said, we want to create reality, but at the same time, we don't want to get anybody hurt during training.
And you have, how many instructors would you have on like a fire scenario like that?
7.
Okay.
We do 7.
Where are they at? They're spread out. Are some of them outside, some of them inside?
Yes, we have 2 instructors on the outside, and everyone else is on the inside. And then we have one guy that does not necessarily have to be a live fire instructor, that keeps an eye on the temperature monitor and is constantly in radio contact with the person that's in charge for that live fire scenario and warns them if we're getting a little too hot.
And getting back to talking about the new firefighter aspect, the recruitment, when we're training the firefighters, the Tallahassee Community College, right, is the academy effectively, and Chief Melvin Stone is running that function along with the TFD. How many firefighters do we certify, or have we certified? Do you know that?
I believe it's over 400 firefighters that we've certified through our training facility and TCC, the TCC TFD Fire Academy.
And those are folks right here that can go to Tallahassee Community College and get involved in that program. It's like a fire science program or a fire service program.
That's correct. They do have a fire science program. The academy portion of that, we have people coming from all over the state, though, that come up here just like they go to TCC, and they'll come up and they'll take classes and go to the fire academy. The fire academy consists of 450 certification hours that they do out there. Okay. They currently run it Monday through Thursday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then they come on Saturdays from 8 to 5, and that will give them, they'll run it approximately 5.5 months. We run 2 classes a year through there, and that will include, first responder and wildland firefighting. They'll get a red card.
Okay, and that's classroom time. That's some of that scenario time that we talked about that we're doing it with our own firefighters. Is that a benefit to have that going on right there at our facility?
Absolutely. Most of the instructors are either current TFD employees or retired TFD employees, and they're familiar with the facility, they're familiar with our tactics and SOPs, and it's a great benefit to have it at a central location.
Okay. Now tell me about what the facility would have looked like prior to that makeover in 2002.
It was rather bleak and barren. It used to be an old Army airfield back during the World War II. We had a rickety old tower that was our quote-unquote training tower, and we had a lot of empty field. There wasn't too much out there.
Okay, so we had to do a lot of improvisation.
Absolutely, a lot of pretending to pretend. But we were fortunate enough in the early 2000s, the city allocated funds to create the current training division that we have, or I should say the facility. With the burn building, the tower, they put in extra hydrants, roads. We actually have a retention pond that we use as a boat ramp for training our new hires to back up the several boats that we have in the fire department. And it gave us the ability to things like you saw earlier, the vent prop and other props that we were able to put in places, the gas props and things like that. So it's really opened up our training.
What else is out there at the training division? What else would you want to add?
Well, we also keep all of our reserve units out at the training facility. These are units that when either one of our frontline units, if they have a mechanical problem, then they can come in and switch out, so we're never down a fire engine more than 30 minutes. They can get back. Or just for typical preventive maintenance, they'll come in for preventive maintenance, and they're able to switch out and to have a unit out there.
There's a museum out there right now?
There is a museum. A retired employee from the fire department, who was at the Fire Prevention Bureau, he took it upon himself several years ago to start collecting memorabilia throughout the years from the fire department and the fire service in general, and did an outstanding job. Our 2 new classrooms that I mentioned earlier, he turned them essentially both into museums, and he did actually Maurice Majak wrote a book on the fire department, and he took a lot of those pictures and decorated the walls and brought a lot of historical things that would otherwise would look like trash, and made it into a super looking fire museum.
And got a lot of retirees to donate their badges.
Absolutely, and help tell the stories of the history of the fire department.
Well, we've got less than a minute left on today's show. Anything else you want to add about what you're doing out there?
We're currently working with developing programs, a lot of online programs to help deliver some of that training that logistically would be really hard to get everybody out there to do. We work a lot on that, and we're looking at trying to become more of a regional training facility.
Bringing some of that technology into the loop and
Absolutely.
allowing us to do some video teleconferencing and different things like that. Jason, anything else to add?
I would just also, this gives you a little tidbit of what we kind of do out there, but if you're interested, we have a Citizens Fire Academy that we run twice a year, and then you can get the information off that website. And all those things that we described that we put our guys training, you're able to do.
Okay, great. Sounds like fun. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're not only helping us be more efficient in saving lives and property out there, but you're helping us protect our own firefighters. So thanks for the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today's show. Thanks for joining us on Scene. We'll see you next time. Stay safe.
Thank you.